What you find, though, when people start incorporating organs is more energy, clearer mind, like they don't have the foggy brain. The nutrients that science has told us, this is what you need. It's all in organ meats. It's Mother Nature's multivitamin. It's not isolated. Like, remember back in the day, used to recommend iron, and then they realized, oh, wait, iron not complemented with other nutrients doesn't actually absorb, right? So they're learning that you need to couple certain vitamins together. Well, the organ meats are already done that way.
If you want to live like you matter, ditch the pills, look great, and feel freaking amazing, you're in the right place. I'm Dr. Wendy Trudeau.
And I'm Dr. Ed Levitan. Welcome to the Feel Freaking Amazing podcast,
where we empower you to live a vibrant and healthy life by optimizing your structural, chemical, emotional, social, and spiritual lives.
Hold on to your hats.
Hello and welcome to the Feel Freaking Amazing podcast. I'm Wendy Trudeau, and we have a star sighting celebrity appearance today with Ed Levitan. And today we have James Berry on our podcast. He is 20 plus years in the culinary field, and he started as a private chef cooking for celebrities such as Tom Cruise, George Clooney, Barbara Streisand, and many more. He is the CEO and founder of the organ-based superfood seasoning called Pluck. It's the first of its kind and an amazingly easy and effortless way for people like you to get organ meat into your diet. So Jamie, welcome. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
How'd you get into this?
And why organ meat?
We're going to get there.
Yeah, the organ meat, I know. Speaking to the person that doesn't normally eat beef, I learned about organ meats in culinary school. We studied a book from the Weston A. Price Foundation. It's called the Nourishing Traditions. And they're capturing, traditional foods. They're showing how to properly make them. They talk about soaking your nuts, if you're going to do that, soaking grains, sprouting. I know you're holding back laughter right now. I can see it. Soaking nuts. I know.
Oh, I can picture. Yeah, it was like the visual of that. Jamie is just wrong. I'm sorry.
No, with the sprouted grains is so much easier to digest. And they talked about organ meats and eating whole animal. And I was like, oh yeah, this makes so much sense. I mean, this is ancestrally how we ate. This makes a lot of sense. Never in history would we ever slaughter a cow and only eat the ribeye. Like, that's just not going to happen. You're not going to slaughter a bird and only eat the breast meat. You know what I mean? And this is the mentality we have now.
Right, but I want to go talk about that because it goes way, way deeper than that. Because on one hand, you're talking about waste, but many cultures. So I started in traditional Chinese medicine, and each organ had its own specific healing properties.
Absolutely.
And then the other part of it is, if you look at like lions. I watched a lot of nature shows when I was young. You did chefing, I did nature shows.
They watch TV.
And if you look at lions, the first thing they do when they kill an animal is they go for the organ meats. The actual muscles are considered inferior to the organ meats.
Absolutely. Well, it's fascinating. So there's this Dr. Bill Schindler. He's a archaeologist, and he talks about a lot how, okay, if you look at ancestrally, the development of the human body to Homo sapien, we started out as foragers, and to forage for the nutrition we needed. We did not have the brain size we have now, so we had different nutritional needs back then. But we would forage, and you were foraging all day, right? Then we became scavengers. So that means we came to the kill after the predator killed it. To your point, the organs were gone and only the muscles. And we ate some of the meat, but nothing much changed. Our brains didn't increase. We still were in that other body. And then we got a rudimentary tool. We became a predator, and we got three things we historically had not gotten. We got blood, we got organs, and we got fat. Because, to your point, those had all been eaten or taken from the predators. And what happens is, now we also had fire around that time, but what happens is our brains start to get bigger because they're getting more nutrients. Our digestive tracts get smaller, which is very important because that means now some of those things we were eating when we were foraging, we can't actually digest as well. So there's a lot of change that happens there. And so technically we wouldn't even be able to have this conversation had we not eaten those organs, to your point. Like they're that nutrient dense. And why I got into these is really because I learned about it in culinary school, but I didn't incorporate it. I was more of like, well, I didn't grow up eating organs. So I was like, well, I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I get it. I get that they're nutrient dense. And it wasn't until I became a father that I was like, hold on, this changes everything. Like it's not just about me now. Like I got to figure out, how do I get these nutrient dense foods into my kids? And then how do I also get them into me? Because I want them to thrive, but I want to live long enough to watch them thrive. And so that's where I started going, okay, I got to solve this. I need to get these into my diet. But I recognize there's three main hurdles. The taste, people think they're gross, even whether they've tasted them or not, they think they're gross. I think that's really interesting. Two, we think that we think that they have to be cooked differently. We think we don't know how to cook them. We're intimidated, so the culinary knowledge. And then the third one is, despite the internet, we still feel intimidated on where to source them and how to source them. And so that's what I set out to solve. And what you held up earlier was pluck. And that was my solution, which is I recognize that we already have the modern technique of preservation with freeze drying. So we already are seeing, really, there's only two ways to get organ meats into our diet right now. We have them in capsules or we eat them in food. And I was like, but there's got to be a middle ground. And so I was like, what if I take that freeze-dried powdered organ meats and I just combine it with the dried vegetables or herbs that, so I'm taking the concept of a pate, but I'm using a dry pate. So I was like, well, what if I add onion? Because that's what you would add to a pate. So why don't I just use granulated onion, garlic, herbs, salt, all these things. And suddenly I had this seasoning that had the organ meats in it. And I was like, wait a second, this is actually good. So I solved the taste. Hey, I don't need to know how to cook. I just need to salt anything. I can salt any popcorn. I can salt French fries, whatever I want, pizza.
Chicken soup. I have it in my chicken soup and it's delectable.
Yeah, there you go. You literally anything. You can if you can salt it, you can pluck it. And then the sourcing, I was like, well, I'm going to just source it from the best place. And that's New Zealand. Now, New Zealand is an island, so they are able to, they have green grass year round. So they have 100% grass-fed beef. A lot of it's pastured. They also are because it's a major export for them, they're very diligent about making sure it's clean and, most importantly, accessible. Like you have access to parts of the animal there that we cannot get here. For example, brain. You cannot buy brain here. It's on a list of you cannot retail it. Over there, you can get it. And guess what? They've never ever had mad cow disease. So isn't that interesting? So like that means that the brain that you're sourcing from there is going to be clean and safe. So right there, I was like, this is it. And then I started like serving it at parties and not telling people. And I was like, I got to test this, right? And everyone would finish the meal and they were like, oh my God, that was so good. What did you do? What did you do? And I was like, well, you just ate organ meats. And they're like, what? and they're like, I don't understand. And I was like, well, I'm developing this product and it's because I want to be able to give it to my kids and not deal with picky eating. And then I developed it and I got it out there. And then people were like, wait a second, it's good. And yeah, it's cool. And I'm noticing some health changes slowly because it's microdosing frequently, cumulative effect kind of thought. But what's interesting is it's actually making my food taste better. Like I'm getting results where people are like, I want seconds, and I'm getting more compliments on my food. People think I'm a better chef than I've ever been, and so it's been having these amazing results that I had no idea when I started doing it. Another one I want to quickly mention is the palate. So a lot of parents deal with picky eaters, and I've come to realize, like, yes, there's some chemical and physical reasons why someone might be picky, but one of the biggest reasons is emotional. And I know for me, when I was a kid, it was like I was trying to control. A lot of my life was out of control, so the thing that I could control is what went into my mouth. And so that picky eating was basically my way of controlling what I could. Well, what I've also learned since then is that our palates are shaped by what we eat. And if you're an American, your palate is probably skewed towards salty and sweet because everything here is salty and sweet, right? But we also have bitter, sour, and umami. Those are the three. Umami is in the 90s was discovered in Japan, and that's more of like a savory taste. They think there's actually a fifth one that's rancid because that has its own taste to it. But if we just focus on the five,
She's really good at that.
But I can taste those things, but we're not aiming for the rancid. We're aiming for the fresh.
but your body's designed to recognize it, and that's what's key. Is so you have these five or six senses, depending on how you look at it, that your body was biologically designed to use to discover, is this food going to kill me or nourish me? And then also it's going to inform, it's a communication pathway that's informing you of like, does your body need what you're eating and when should it stop?
Cool. So can we back up and talk about it's sort of intuitive, like, oh yeah, organ meat, it's good for you, but how is it good for you in a way that chicken breast is not, or steak is not? What are the key differences that organ meats bring to the table that regular meats don't?
Yeah, it's a great question. But it kind of goes back to what Ed said earlier, which is like, because really what we're talking about is why. So why does that lion eat the organs first? And if you think about the human body, the organs have a job to do, just like the muscle has a job to do. But those jobs are all very different. And so the nutrients you need to move that muscle is different than the nutrients you need to pump that heart, even though they're both technically are muscles, as you both know, right? So it's like, for example, there's CoQ10 in heart, but there's not CoQ10 in your muscle, your leg muscle, right? And so each organ has the nutrients it needs to do its job. And so while most of them all have the B12, but liver, for example, is very high in iron. It's very high in vitamin A. So it's going to have these vitamins that sometimes people are not getting from the food they eat. Whether it's from depleted soils or because they're eating foods that are more devoid in nutrients. One thing we have to think about too is like, not only, this is one that people are only starting to clue in on, is like, let's say we talk about broccoli. People are like, oh, broccoli's got all these great vitamins, right? But when the broccoli was picked, how long it took to get to your refrigerator, and when you actually cook it determines how much nutrients it has, because nutrients are affected by time and temperature. And so for most of us, by the time we actually get these foods, and I'm using air quotes of like nutrient dense foods, they're no longer nutrient dense. But organ meats, it's kind of like what happens when they harvest the organ meat from the animal. They're immediately freezing it because they have to, because otherwise it will go bad. Organ meats, they actually go bad faster than muscle meat. And that's one of the reasons why back in the day when they centralized meat production, and then they had the railroad system, and it would they would railroad the meat to the coast. They actually stopped using organ meats. They didn't carry the organ meats because the carts, the train carts, couldn't get cold enough to store the organ meats. So people started to lose favor with organ meats, because if it's not at your butcher or it's not in your vicinity for you to purchase, you stop thinking about it. You stop buying it. And as we know, money is how we vote. And so it's like, if we don't buy it, then they don't supply it. And so organ meats have the protein, similar protein as the muscle meat. They're packed with vitamin A. They even have D. They have K2 as well. They have hormones. They strengthen bones. They fuel our vitality. And here's what's really key is you don't need a lot. Like, whereas you might eat, I don't know, 6-7 ounces of a muscle meat, you could get a power punch of just like 1 ounce of an organ and you're good. Like, most people don't need more than 2 ounces a day, if that. So a little goes a long way. I always think of it like if you were feeling sick, and now the three of us might not do this, but most people, they'll go to 7-Eleven and they'll go to the counter and they'll grab one of those emergency, liquid things, and they'll pop one of those. Or let's say if someone's trying to like, energize, they go pound one of those monster, energy drinks or something like that. So they look at that as like, this is a power packed, device for me to like get stimulated. And I'm like, well, that's what organ meats are for our human body.
So tell me something, Jamie. I want to pivot. Tell me, what's the difference that organ meat makes? I mean, we've talked about that the lions eat it first and that it's ancestral, but does it, can you point to, here are the things that you find when you really start to get those gears moving? What does it do?
So I mean, if you think about it, every biological system in our body is fueled by the nutrients that you can find in organ meats. The nutrients that science has told us this is what you need to create life, so that they've established these are the nutrients in a prenatal, which you know very well from your background. It's all in organ meats. So I think when you think of it from that perspective, then, okay, so this is as Mother Nature intended. It's Mother Nature's multivitamin. There's synergistic vitamins already built into it. So it's not isolated. Like, remember back in the day, they used to recommend iron, and then they realized, oh wait, iron not complemented with other nutrients doesn't actually absorb, right? So they're learning that you need to couple certain vitamins together. Well, the organ meats are already done like that way. You know, like the fat soluble vitamins, it's got fat. It's like, it's all there as intended. So what you find though, when people start incorporating organs is I hear more energy. I hear clearer mind, like they don't have the foggy brain. Skin issues clear up. I've seen that. We've gotten feedback from customers that they have some kids who have Crohn's disease. They're eating the organ meats, and it's the only thing that's actually helping them. Another father wrote to us saying that his daughter was born with a skin issue that they were using pharmaceuticals for, wasn't working. They tried supplements, wasn't working. And then they had heard maybe organ meats would help. And she was so young, they couldn't give her the capsules. So they'd use pluck. And they said her skin issues started to go away. So sleep improvements. As you guys know, like sometimes people, you hear about this more and more, they have the palpitations. And a lot of times people are given different drugs or told to get, that surgery where they get the scar tissue on their heart, all that stuff. Like they're told to go that route, but sometimes it's just simply that they're low in B vitamins. So it's like, I've heard like eating the organ meats actually supports them in not having that racy heart. So there's so many things that you just start to see get improved when you eat these incredibly nutrient dense foods. And the key word that I just said is it's a food. It's not, it's there, like even with pluck, all it is freeze-dried powdered organ meats and salt and organic spices and herbs. That's it. Like we're not adding some magic potion. It's like we are just capturing what nature has already done so perfectly.
It always was weird to me. I mean, I've always loved liver. I grew up on chopped liver and chicken hearts. Like I ate it as a kid, but just not the beef liver until I was older. But anyway, it always seemed weird to me when I learned that the liver was the organ that filtered the body. It seemed weird to me that I was going to eat the thing that processed the toxins. And I still haven't gotten my brain around that. Even though I still eat it and I know it's super nutrient dense, I still have this thought like, but does it have more toxins in it because it's filtering the toxins and processing them?
That is one of the concerns. Like the two I would say I hear the most with organs is is it storing the toxins? So am I just getting a power pack full of toxins? And then the other one is, am I getting too much vitamin A, or am I getting too much of these nutrients if it's so nutrient dense? And I'll address the first one, which is, and I wish I had a really good comeback for like something that we do in our daily life that where it's the same mindset that you're talking about, but people are applying it towards something that is every day. And I haven't come up with that yet. But if you think about it, that the liver its job is to detoxify the animal. When we think of it storing the toxins, we're really thinking of it almost like a coffee filter or a sponge. And if that were true, if as you both know, if the liver were a sponge or a coffee filter that couldn't be cleaned, we would all be dead right now, because there's so many toxins in the world that there's no way we would be able to detoxify. And so I think that's the mindset people are getting trapped in. But if you think about it from this other perspective, let's flip the coin And think about it from the perspective of like, wait, the organ has the job to detoxify. That must mean it does its job very well because we're not dead. And because it does it so well, it must have nutrients in it that will support my own detoxification.
It's actually not a storage unit. I just realized this. The liver stores glycogen, ADEK, but it's not a storage unit for toxins. That's what the fat is the deep storage depot. So when you're eating meat, you probably don't want to eat the fat because that's where all the toxins are, and the liver shouldn't have it 'cause it's not a storage unit. So I just thought that through. Thanks for helping me think that through, Jamie.
Jamie, you've just saved our marriage. Thank you.
I mean, that's it. Now we can go have liver.
This applies so much. No, but the liver's job is to take those toxins and turn them water soluble so that they can leave in your poop, your pee, and your sweat. And so I would offer that it's more important that we focus on that. We focus on, are you properly eliminating your toxins? So are you pooping daily? Are you when you pee, is your pee a certain color? Are you sweating? There's people out there that don't sweat. It's like, that to me is bigger concern than eating organs. Like, to me, the organs are just going to support you in detoxifying. And then the other piece that's really key is, you said it gets stored in the fat. That is true. And so if you're overweight, you also, and this is kind of carries over what pluck is. Pluck to me is a micro dosing. So we're trying to do little amounts, but we're trying to do them daily and multiple times daily. I am a big fan of small amounts, but regularly, right? I don't like extreme. I think extreme is not sustainable. And I think while we live in a world that is so extreme, but I don't believe that human nature is meant to be extreme. I think it's meant to be very gradual and small amounts, because it's more important to sustain things than it is to blow them out or to do something briefly, but never do it again. And so what is very important is that if someone is overweight, you have to assume that you have been storing toxins in your fat. And when you go to lose that weight, you better do it gradually, because you could get very sick. The issue then once again goes back to, okay, great. We can talk to our blue in the face about how nutrient dense they are and how easily absorbable those nutrients are. But then why aren't we eating them? Because still people avoid them.
I love liver. We actually had liver this week. And the biggest problem with liver is don't overcook it, because it's,
yes,
it's like sear it, be done. Don't beat the horse, just.
It's so true, because it gets not only stronger, but also the texture gets chalky and disgusting. I would offer that is the number one reason why organ meats have such a bad rap, is because people historically have not had them prepared properly.
Yeah, I remember.
I think at this point, historically maybe, but at this point, 99% of people have never tasted an organ meat in their life, or thought about it even.
But the reason they've never tasted it is because their parents were forced to eat it and fed like really overcooked, liver and onions, basically.
My grandfather used to, when in Florida, where you could still get it, used to order liver and onions. And it was beef liver and onions. And he would order that every time we went to this one particular restaurant. And I was always like, what is that? And then we bought a cow, like at this point, it's like almost 5 years ago. And it came with liver. And I'm like, well, we bought it. We might as well cook it. And it was delicious. And now we're eating chicken liver, but we can't get the beef liver without buying the cow. And the guy's like, I'm not doing that anymore. So we can't even get it.
Interesting. Yeah, it's rare that you even got it. Usually they don't even supply it. Well, there's lots of ways to ease the organs into your diet. And one thing that you just brought up, which I think is important, is a lot of people just immediately go like, oh, it should be beef organs. It's like, no. Don't worry about the species when you're first easing into them. Because what we want is first you to get a taste for it and to just start to get it regular into your diet. So I always recommend chicken hearts first. Like, start with chicken hearts, because they're so mild and they're kind of even sweet. So just start there. You can chop them up just like mushrooms, throw them in a sauce. No one will even know. And then you can graduate eventually to chicken livers or even the beef livers. But chicken will be milder. Most fowl or poultry are going to be milder. The more stronger the organ, the more toxins it's going to hold. it probably represents also how it's more nutrient dense, because the flavor is the nutrients, right? Like that metallic taste is because it's high in iron, things like that, right? So you're tasting the nutrients when you taste it. But I would offer that when you go to graduate to beef liver, you keep it frozen, because that's the other thing that's intimidating, is when such a huge thing, that this huge hunk of liver is defrosted, it's incredibly intimidating. And so like just keep it frozen, pull it out, and just grate it. Just grate it right into your ground meats and just do a little bit, and then put it right back in the freezer. And then that way it doesn't go bad. And then you're just doing a little bit. Because that's the other thing that I always try to impart to people is like, look, these animals have one liver, they have one heart, they have two little kidneys. It's like the muscle is mostly what that animal is, the muscle and bone. So this idea that we should be eating liver every week, that is a false idea, because just like the example of there's no reality where we would kill an animal and only eat the ribeye, there's no reality where anyone would kill an animal and be able to eat liver every week, because there's only one liver. It's like, hello. Like, and there's 20 people in the tribe, you're all getting a little bit. But that's the beauty of it. You don't need much. But I would more emphasize that it's less about one organ. It's about, let's eat the whole animal, because they all have those synergistic, supports, benefits, really. So it's, and like, for example, liver is known for having lots of iron. I mentioned that earlier, right? Heme iron. But spleen has 5 times more. But you know what I mean? So it's like, if you focus on the whole animal, then not only are we, to what we talked about earlier, being more kind of planetary and life focused of valuing that animal, but you're also, I believe, going to get a more holistic nutrition from that animal, because nothing's going to be overdone. You're gonna have a little bit of everything, which to me is more important.
All right. So what's your favorite thing to put it on?
Popcorn is definitely popcorn or toast I love it just on that kind of stuff. But eggs is another one. I mean, I honestly, for me, I put it on everything. Like anything, like fish, chicken, beef, doesn't matter. Salads, I even sprinkle it over my salad. And mostly because I do not want people thinking like this is a one time and done kind of thing. Like you don't get enough organ meats from one use of it. Like that's not the point. If you're looking for that, go take the capsules. You know what I mean? Like that's going to be more of a swallow 6 to 8 capsules and you're done, but then the issue you're running into is like, did you just get too much? Like, cause when we swallow things versus eating them, we're bypassing that neurolingual response that our bodies were designed to utilize. When you bypass that, now you don't know what your body needs and wants. And so I'm a big fan of like, eat your food, and eat it slow enough and mindful enough so that your body will tell you when to stop and what it needs or doesn't need. But with pluck, because the seasonings are not 100% organ meat, the pure is 100%, but the other ones are not. You got to use it regularly. You got to use it minimum each day, or ideally like two to 3 times a day. And you will see changes. Like we hear people seeing lots of changes within that first few weeks or a month. Like one person, if you're incredibly sensitive, we had this one person reach out and said, I tried it and I couldn't get to sleep that night. Like I had so much energy. I was like, really? Gosh, that's crazy. How much did you use?
Right.
So what does pluck have actually?
Yeah, good question. So first of all, did you guys know? Do you know the name pluck? Do you know what it? Did you know where it came from?
No.
We just pluck it. We don't know the origin.
So I wish I had come up with it, but my branding team came up with it, and it actually does mean animal organs. It's a 15th century term for the liver, the heart, and the lung of an animal. And so I was like, when I heard that, I was like, great. And it was to your point, Ed. I was like, I asked my kids, I'm like, hey, Mom, where's the pluck? Like I was pretending someone's in the grocery store and like, where's the pluck? And I heard it roll off everyone's tongue. And I'm like, oh, that's gonna be fun, And to this day, when I'm at events and someone buys from me, I love telling them, like, well, it was great plucking you, or you've been plucked, whatever. Just using the word in some fun way. But what pluck has right now is liver, heart, kidney, spleen, and pancreas. And each of those have their own important, like supports like properties. Pancreas, for example, has natural digestive enzymes. So if you have issues, digesting your food, Pluck will support that. So we're using Mother Nature to support our health instead of, isolates and laboratory made things. We're using Mother Nature as intended. And I hope to include in the future lung and maybe even collagen, which is usually coming from the skin, but comes from other parts of the animal as well. So I'm hoping that the idea is that I want to try to get as much of that animal into people's diets as easily as possible and ideally as deliciously as possible.
Where can people find out more about you? And we'll put all this in the show notes.
Cool. Yeah. So you can find us at eatpluck.com. You can also find Pluck on Amazon. And then on socials, we're at Chef James Berry and at Eat Pluck. And you guys sell it at your clinic too. So if you're in the area in Boston, you should come by the 5 Journeys clinic and get it there.
Awesome. All right, Jamie. Thank you for being on the podcast, and for the listeners, thanks for listening. And really, this has been amazing. So we're so grateful that you came on the Feel Freaking Amazing podcast. So thank you.
Thank you.
Don't go it alone.
It's not a social journey until others join.
Share this with your friends.